Hello, my name is Doreen Ellen Beldotan in Sfat in Israel. I made a video addressed to Christians last week, which I took down because on the one hand I felt that I was feeling too much rancor when I made it, and on the other hand I felt that I wasn't stating the seriousness of the situation clearly enough. So I wanted to get to a place where I could express the rather dire situation in which the Christian world finds itself, but without being angry, to try to be as analytical about it as possible if I can. As Rabbi Manis Friedman said many years ago, what's new is not testament, and what's testament is not new. So all of the passages about love and caring and sharing and justice and so forth and so on that are in the Christian Bible are straight out of our Torah, and for whatever the reasons are, the attributes are not found therein. It is Jewish practice to attribute to our teachers in their names what they've taught us. So the fact that Yeshua is never quoted as saying, I learned such and such from, I learned such and such from, tells me that either the book was edited or something else went wrong there. The new passages are things that are absolutely shocking, that have absolutely no basis or precedent in Judaism. Eternal damnation, some kind of a fallen angel that stands in opposition to the God of Israel, referring to the Jews as the synagogue of Satan. Really shocking, horrible, horrible things. And the fact that there's goodness there is clearly being used as a cover for the bad stuff. If I have a glass of organic, freshly squeezed orange juice right off the super organic farm, and I put one drop of cyanide, of strychnine, in it, I've poisoned the whole cup. And if I'm a really, really nasty person, I give someone a glass of orange juice, knowing that they're going to think it's healthy, but there's this drop of cyanide or tetracycline, what do they call it? The stuff that one drop in an Olympic pool is enough to poison you. In it. The Christians have committed a crime which is unprecedented in history. It is they who went up against the God of Israel. And everything that the Christians have ever said about the Jews is not really aimed at us. It's aimed at the God of Israel. They are that which attempts to stand in opposition to God. Now, every other religion, every other tradition might have ideas in them that Jews consider erroneous. But they are not against the God of Israel. All of the teachings of the Christians about the Antichrist, what they really mean is that they themselves are anti-God. They have done everything they can to drive a wedge into the house of Israel, to dig under our house. I have absolutely no reason to believe that Yeshua ben Miriam is quoted correctly in the Christian Bible. I can base that on the fact that I am rarely quoted correctly by Christians who have my videos right in front of them in real time. We cannot trust these people. It sounds a whole lot more like he said, she said. Very elaborate attempt to make us think that there was a Jew who so betrayed us that we had to reject him totally, and in so doing, make the house of Israel imperfect. Because we know that in order for there to be a complete redemption, every one of us has to be redeemed. And even if Yeshua ben Miriam taught things that were in error, and like who hasn't, right? It cannot be a case where we think that in his case we can't forgive him. This in particular case we have to reject it completely. I think he was lied about. And that to the purpose of keeping the house of Israel divided. I am 100% sure that when he has his chance to speak to the whole house of Israel and represent what he had to say in his own words to us, we'll find that we have much more similarity and familiarity with what he says than the reports that we've seen in the Christian Bible. Christianity is evil itself. It is unalloyed evil. It is the attempt to destroy the creation. I'll explain why this is so awful. The Christians keep trying to convince as many Jews as they can to accept Christianity. Very often they target Jews who are vulnerable for one reason or another. And we are partly to blame for that we have allowed some Jews to be vulnerable. We should be much more careful. Make sure that nobody can come to them and say, I'll give you the comfort that the Jews aren't giving you. Because the worst thing that can happen to a person is to feel unloved by their family. And the Jews are one big, if somewhat dysfunctional family. But nobody should be made to feel unloved or unwanted. That's where the Christians step in. We Jews know that the entire creation was only to the purpose of the Jews accepting the Torah. Everything that exists in creation flows from that, And that is the reason for the creation itself. Why is the creation so important to the ancient Holy One, the God of Israel? Imagine, if you will, having everything that you can give, everything that there is to give, and no one to give it to. Imagine what it's like to be alone for eternity. Imagine what it's like to think of a great joke and have no one to tell it to. To want to show somebody love, but there's no one there to show it to. The ancient Holy One, the God of Israel, did the impossible. Managed to create a space within its own absolute infinity in which it filled everything that wasn't in it. There was nothing but God. That even these terms don't apply. It was just God. To find a way of creating another who could eventually be both other and God, to be able to be that which God could give to, and to create within us the need to receive from, and to have a reciprocal relationship with, and yet be one. God found a way to do that. The Christians, in trying to convert the Jews to Christianity, trying to subvert God's plan to be able to love and be loved. Had they succeeded, it would not be Israel who would suffer. There is no eternal damnation, but there is utter obliteration. The world would have been returned to the state in which there was no world, the situation. The words don't reach this. And in short, God would have been all alone all over again, eternally. In other words, the Christians' attack was not to hurt Israel, it was to hurt God. It was to return God to the place of being all alone forever, all over again. To cause God that kind of anguish. That was the plan. Now, I don't know where such evil even arose. I don't know the origin of such evil. If it is within Israel, and I presume that it has to be, then we have to find that within ourselves and fix it. But even those Jews who would do something like that still have zchut avot. They still have the merits of their fathers to fall back on. Sarah and Abraham are still going to find some kind of way of redeeming them. Not so with their Gentile minions. I do not know how to find within myself, and I have tried. I do not know how to find within myself the forgiveness of the Christians who tried to hurt the God of Israel and leave God all alone. Because you see, he wasn't going to take you instead of us, not after an attack like that. Just be left alone. I cannot find it within myself to forgive that. I am not only open to and willing to hear the opinions of those who in Israel are more forgiving than I, if they can find a way of forgiving that, if they can find a way of fixing that somehow, I would be willing to listen to what they have to say. But it is beyond my ken, completely. I cannot forgive that. I do not see a place for that in God's plan at all. You Christians see that your world is falling apart and going absolutely insane. You have been told that these are going to be the tribulations before your salvation. That's a lot of nonsense and bad translation. What you are experiencing are the last dire warnings and pleas from heaven to turn around and renounce your Christian horror, to admit what you've done to Israel. You tried to steal the children's bread. We Jews have been accused of using human blood to make our bread. And it's not like that at all. The bread that we eat, which is the Torah that we learn, is the bread that our mothers poured their own blood, sweat, and tears into. That's the truth of the matter. And you denigrated that. You tried to steal the bread of the mothers from their children. These kinds of crimes against, it's not even crimes against humanity. It's crimes against existence. Have no precedent. I hope that there's some kind of a way of reaching you. But if not, I have to tell you that you simply don't have any place in God's plan at all. If there are those in Israel that have a higher view who can help you, I invite them to step in and do so. But this I can tell you. Yeshua ben Miriam is happy to be returned to his family, to sit with us as a cousin. The expression Ben David, which is translated as the son of David, right? The Mashiach will be the son of David. It's also Ben Dod. Ben Dawid is Ben Dod, which means cousin. He is just another cousin among cousins in the holy family of Israel. Dysfunctional and strange as we may be, we are the holy family. And it's far more important to him to sit at our table as just another cousin than to be your demigod. I'm very, very worried about you. I don't even know what it is within me that's even reaching out to you and saying this to you. Frankly, I should shut my mouth and let you go to hell. But something inside me doesn't let me do it. Everybody deserves a chance. And I hope to God you take it. Thank you for listening.